Welcome to Ravens Across the Pond, your place for everything Baltimore Ravens. From a fresh, European perspective. Plenty of laughs, plenty of piss-taking, and of course, questionable insights. Sit back, relax, grab a beer, and enjoy the show.
Well, fuck me, Ravens flock. We are back with an absolute banger of an episode. We're in a brand new studio, our second episode with our sponsor. And if you'll notice, we've got 6 out of 7 tonight. It's not dozy, sleepy, angry, grumpy, whatever else the 7 dwarfs were called. There's only 6 of them tonight. Danzai, Oliver, Richard, DT, Nathan, welcome.
Hello, everyone. I thought you were describing Danzai when you said dozy, sleepy, angry, grumpy, but it's all of the above, isn't it?
Oh, I don't think there was a dwarf called Crayon Muncher, but you never know. Definitely not going to get one now, are you? Yeah, good looking one. Yeah, back with another episode 17 already, guys. I was just saying before we went on, I can't believe how quick we're knocking these out. Thank you to our listeners, obviously, and our viewers. This podcast is brought to you by the Across the Pond Sports Network. Thank you to our sponsors, Stacked, as well, who continue to support us. We'll just dive in. Look, we've got coming up on tonight's show. The Ravens dominate the Bengals 24-0. Keep the playoff hopes alive. Send the Bengals on the jollies to Cancun in January instead of playoff football. Did the Ravens defense turn up and say, we're not here to take part, we're here to take over? We'll dissect that one. Of course, Dickie's back with his Dick of the Day. Dickie's back with Dick of the Day. We'll also break down Lamar's record in weeks 15 to 18 of the regular season. We have got Danzai's stat of the week, and we have got some videos that we've had sent in from our community, whether that's on WhatsApp, Instagram, TikTok. Some questions for the guys to answer. So, without further ado, I don't think there is a better place to start than the Ravens dominating the Bengals 24-0. Kept the playoff hopes alive. Guys, what do we think?
The AFC North is absolute bonkers. Who would have thought that after the drubbing we got at Thanksgiving that they would manage to turn it around in such a capacity they did. It felt like the Bengals players were dropping like flies throughout the game, but don't take anything away from what was maybe the most complete performance of the season. Lamar didn't have to do much, but what he did was all very impressive. A very unlucky interception, otherwise stellar on only 12 pass attempts. All the running backs did well. Receivers did what they had to do, but it's. I think tonight's going to be all about the defense.
Yeah, well, we're definitely.
Sorry, Dan. Okay, I was just going to say, as we all boldly predicted, it was going to be a really easy win for the Ravens. Look, I mean, it almost felt like one of those performances. Probably that we expected to see a few weeks ago, where the defense was able to get good pressure on Joe Burrow. He was sacked multiple times. We looked like a good team for once, and I don't know what that says about the Bengals, but it was nice to have a reasonably stress-free evening.
I think it spoke a lot in the week. The Bengals players about how they were going to turn up and sort of tear us apart. I think Chase had quite a lot to say. Unfortunately, he did have a good game. But then the rest of the team, they said, they're supposed to be Bengal Tigers and they're playing like a load of tabby cats. I just think we can just see the fact that we managed to get 10 QB hits, 5 from Draymond Jones, and that's worth all the money that we've paid him for, isn't it? That's exactly what you want.
Draymond Jones had an absolutely stellar game, but my favourite part of his game was just the absolute shithousery and winding up of the Bengals players. Danzo's doing it for those watching. Oh, the crybabies. And that's what they were. There were some interesting calls in the game as well that certainly didn't help the Bengals players, but they really bit, and they bit hard. And Draymond Jones has really turned what had been quite a lackluster pass rush around. And I said 5 quarterback hits. Another day you could have had 3 sacks, but yeah, they did what they had to do. They really unsettled Joe Burrow, and I think that was a big part of kind of what the defense got to do.
I think we should give Zach Orr some flowers as well. I think he called his best game of the season. We seemed to cover the field quite well, and giving Burrow no options. He'd got a couple of check down passes. We were covering deep, covering the middle of the field well. I think we were generating pressure, whether that were disguised blitzes and stuff like that. We were going for him, and he had his best game, and his defense in turn had his best game. So.
Yeah, when I'm having Washington back, Carl Hampton again roaming around all over the shop. I think it just allows or to call much more. He mixes up his schemes quite a lot. There's a big mix up of zone and man today, which I think really helped. Burrow, he's going to pick it apart eventually, but for today at least, the pass rush got there.
I think it was the most complete performance we've seen from the team for a long time, really. Like all season, certainly, and every part of the game seemed to be working, to be honest. In the preview episode, I was the one that predicted a standout win. Rich and Tom were absolutely terrified. Dan's I would have predicted a Bengals win if it weren't to just try and keep it even. So even he had his tail between his legs, just trying to err on the side of caution. He had his famous splinters in his arse, as Tom would say. But one of us predicted a dominant win. So no surprise that we got it.
If we're
down to 41 points.
Hang on.
Was about the same.
Right, hang on. So I'm not the only dickhead on this podcast who's got to make a fucking apology tonight. I will make an apology, and I will own it. I will puff my chest out. I don't need a Kevlar vest. No one's shooting me with any airsoft bullets with this apology. I'm telling you now, straight. But it was a well-informed, well-revised prediction. We will get onto the defense in a minute. Before we get on the defense, I do want to talk offense. Not that there was much, but what there was great. However, in regards to score prediction, I owe everyone an apology. So I'm not saying the word. I'm not saying the word that begins with an S and ends in a Y. I'm just saying I apologise. That's what you're getting. I'll own it. But when we get to talk on the defense, and my argument for how well this defense performed and what, to me, it signifies going forward this season, and you look at what the Bengals have done previously, then you might go, well, I can understand why he's made that decision. But yeah, no, I apologise. DT, I'm sure we'll get onto your apology later if it comes.
We've got to remember as well that this is a 4-10 team that we played. So, you know what I mean? We've got to turn up next week and show it again if we're going to start predicting wins regularly.
It was a 4-10 team that were also incredibly banged up, and an injury bug that didn't seem to avoid us as well. What would have been a perfect day was sadly marred a little bit by, it looks like Teddy Buchanan is going to be out for the year. There are also injuries to Humphrey and Owusu. Neither returned to the game. We don't know much about either of those.
Humphrey did return, because this is what I was going to say about Marlon Humphrey. Like, we all know that I'm not, personality-wise, I'm not his biggest fan, but you look at him this season, it is clear he's been banged up. Obviously, he had an operation and returned within a week. Like, he is putting it on the line for the Ravens this year, and obviously coming back out yesterday was phenomenal. The injuries obviously are a concern, but you're at the business end of the season now. You're going to be expected to get these. It's a long, grueling season. On the
injuries,
go on,
Tom. I think the ones that we got back yesterday, Robinson, all played a part and looked a more assured front with players that we got coming back yesterday. So hopefully, if these two aren't too bad, I don't think Teddy's is going to be a good one, but hopefully Marlon can get back on field. I think we should be in a good spot.
Yeah, it was a bad day for
off well at one point, didn't you, with a bad knee? But Harv said he was okay, but whether you can trust him on that, who knows?
Amputation to follow.
It wasn't a great day yesterday, was it, across the league for injuries to big players? You saw Micah Parsons done ACL, Kermit the Frog done ACL. Who was the other one who did it? Was it 3 ACLs yesterday?
Teddy.
Yeah, Teddy.
Teddy, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Ravens have since confirmed he did tear his ACL, so he's done for the year, which is a shame because it was a very promising rookie campaign.
I suppose you would say, from a pragmatic point of view, if you're gonna lose a player to an ACL at this point in the season, you know, your rookie inside linebacker too, you know, had a fantastic season to unseat Simpson, but at least, you know, we've got Simpson. He has, you know, decent experience in the league now, you know, has that draft pedigree, you know, has shown that he's more than physical enough. Just, you know, we need to see him come on the mental side of the game. You know, we've got a decent replacement for probably one of the less premium positions on the defense.
I think if you look about what's out there at the moment in free agency, I think Roller said it in the group earlier. I think the only other option is sort of Kendricks on the practice squad somewhere. There's really nobody about. You're not going to get anyone at this stage of the season, are you, to fill that?
No.
And I do wonder what it does say. I know we found him; he's a bit of a diamond in the rough. But what does it say about our defense when we're sort of pinning some of our hopes on a 5th round linebacker not getting injured? That's a bit of a worrying state of affairs at times. But
Definitely.
Rich, if your man can come in and do a job, then I'll be happy for you.
There we go.
So just shifting the focus to offense, and some key stats from yesterday. Lamar was 8 for 12, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 150 yards passing. Derek Henry 100 yards rushing, over 11 carries. Zay Flowers, I've got a feeling he might crop up again later in the pod during Dickey's segment. 3 receptions, 68 yards, 1 touchdown. Roquan Smith, 14 tackles on defense. Defense is going to be a big feature of this podcast because they were fucking superb. Guys, what did we see on offense that we like?
I think for me,
I'll go with you. Seems as though you're the offense basher.
Well, what I like about the offense,
Sergeant Bash.
I mean, yeah, it was just smooth is what I'd say to describe it. I think the best thing I saw in the offense was that we won that game without any magic Lamar moments. There wasn't any way you're going to go, bloody hell, that happened because they've got Lamar at quarterback. Fucking no other team could do that. Like, there weren't any real huge Lamar moments. It was just a really kind of solid, smooth performance on the offense that actually is a really good sign for the rest of the season, given that Lamar's not at his absolute best with, you know, potential injury niggles. If he can go ahead and do that week in, week out and just play with that level of efficiency and control, we're laughing. That was
the word for me about that to describe the offense there would probably be efficient. I think if you look at it, you look at Lamar at 8 of 12. Every one of his incompletions hit the receiver in the hands. So we had 21 minutes of offensive time possession. You're not really going to do a lot with that. I think it must be on 35, 36 plays. I think I saw handed about. You can't really do a lot with that. But it's, yeah, like you said, DT, Lamar is steady but not superb at the moment, I think.
I think we got the run game going as well, didn't we? And you could see in the third quarter when after we won the ball back, after they got the ball back, that I think Derrick Henry ripped off for 2 20-yard runs. You could see that they were starting to get fatigued and that we were just continuing it with all 3 running backs, which were a good bit of difference between them two. Because it's normally we get Rick Keaton usually rips one off and then goes, doesn't he?
Yeah,
last time we started with a run and we just moved away from it. Henry was gashing him last time and we moved away from it. This time we stayed with him, 9.1 yards a carry, stick to it.
I think you guys have kind of summed it up. It was solidly unspectacular, but I think one thing that we haven't managed to do at times this season was to win the turnover battle. And, I appreciate we had the kind of unfortunate dropped ball from Flowers that gave away the interception. But apart from that, it just sort of felt like largely mistake-free football. I think the offensive line tried to make some mistakes, but we were just able to overcome those. We didn't have any catastrophic kind of drive-killing moments.
Yeah,
Lamar seemed a bit better.
Choke plays when it mattered as well. Like, I don't think I've seen a game all season where we've had maybe 4 or 5 separate plays which went over 20 yards, and Rasheen Ali's touchdown, the Bengals kind of came in with a bit of a zero blitz, and Lamar did a really good job of getting out in time. The pass to DeAndre Hopkins was an absolute thing of beauty. Lamar's sidearm throwing is probably like not talked about enough. When you think about Lamar, you think about the running ability to escape the pocket, but that sidearm pass that he can do when he pulls it off is, God, just absolutely amazing to see. Zay had a choke play as well. He also had a bit of a dumb moment, but how much of that was on the cold weather? Hard to tell. Jamar Chase also had a bit of a dodgy hand day going on. But yeah, the running backs, Derrick Henry seemed to be able to just run at will. He was like pulling off 10, 15 yards for fun against a Bengals defense, which we knew wasn't very good anyway, but seemingly had just kind of lost the will to live by halftime. It was cold. They were getting battered. They wanted to go home. So we made sure they did.
I think that run game says a lot about our play calling when we're winning. We've obviously, me especially, have given Todd Monken shit over the weeks, not over the years. He was great last year. But we struggle with the run game when we're behind and chasing the game. He obviously goes away from the run game, which in textbook coaching is what you do. You don't want to be kind of running the ball when you've got to make some quick touchdowns and get the ball back and be able to kind of catch up. But this week obviously just shows that when we're winning, we are great on offense, and he can call some great plays to keep that offense sustaining it, running the clock down, keeping the run game going, and just playing some great football. And that's what we saw, and that's why the run game did well, because we were winning.
Where we go, man?
I still think the concerns are still there on the O-line now. I watched those first 2 sacks. At one point in the first sack, Falele and India on the same person, and likely was left up against their pass rusher. Is not what you want to see. And then on the second one, at one point, Falele, Voorhees, and Ricard were all just on the same boat, and you just think that can't really happen, can it?
No, there's definitely still some queries, and I think we got away with it against a certain team. But it'll be interesting to see how that transpires in the future weeks. But I think it was a pretty solid week for the O-line overall.
As solid as they can be. It was an improvement, but it's let's face it, it doesn't take much, does it, to improve on what they have been previously. Look, let's moving on to the defense. Obviously going into that game, I said in the kind of preview pod that this is must win. The Ravens defense turned up and kind of said, we're not here, we're not just taking part, we're going to come in and take over this game. 3 sacks on Joe Burrow, 2 turnovers on downs, 2 interceptions. Obviously, one of them was a return for a 6. And they restricted the Bengals offense to just 298 yards. Now, earlier on, I apologised for my prediction that the Bengals would turn us over this week. And that is because even with the injuries to Joe Burrow, they were going up against a Bengals offense that has averaged 30.1 points in its previous 7 games. And it was just two weeks ago that they put 32 on Baltimore in Thanksgiving. That was Joe Burrow's first game back. It was just that I just didn't see that before, that defensive performance. Obviously, Joe Burrow, his first game back was against us, and he's had a couple more games to get up to speed. I thought he would be better than what he was. And I've been crying in the week about, do I want to do this any longer? I think this game has probably created more doubts than it did, and put ease to them. significant game for the Ravens. That was their first shutout victory since week 6 of the 2018 season. That was Lamar's rookie season, but obviously Joe Flacco was the QB there. Jackson came out post-game and he said, that's Ravens football right there. That's the Ravens defense that I'm used to seeing and what I'm accustomed to seeing. But there's always room for improvements. Our guys pulled the shut off today, but we have to just keep going and stay locked in and stay focused. Like the defense, the performance by the lads on defense was superb. The performance by the defensive coordinator Zach Orr was superb. The play call, and don't want to get into it straight away. We'll probably get into it a bit further on down the segments. Obviously, the best play of the day for me was obviously the Van Noy interception and palm off. But guys, just how solid was that defense?
Best it's looked. Definitely best it's looked.
Yeah. How much of that the Bengals running game did not get going, and after a while they were playing catch up, they had to kind of abandon it. And then Joe Burrow is basically throwing to Jamar Chase and a load of absolute nobodies. Look at the rest of their target names, and God forbid it's a sorry state of affairs, really, but definitely the best game I think Zach Orr's prepared for. I think he learned a lot from the absolute drubbing we got on Thanksgiving. And shout out to Carl Van Noy, who did exactly what I think I would have done in that situation. He didn't want to run those 95 yards. He had no intention of running those 95 yards. He saw Gilman and went, go on, son. I'll block one bloke and then you do the rest.
It was brilliant on that pace. If you watch it, he kind of runs into rush, he engages left guard, and then just drops back, allowing that pressure to come through, and then he's just like there, ready to go. It was
he's put a clip on Instagram today explaining that play call, and that play call was designed. Zach Orr designed that play call, just on the basis that obviously if they get pressure on Burrow with how their offense had been performing so poorly yesterday, if you put him under pressure, he's gonna want to throw it away quickly, and that's exactly what he did. Great interception.
As soon as he engaged, it just get a free lane.
Yeah. DT obviously a big factor in that play. Gilman, anything to say?
Yeah. I mean, the words starting with S and ending in Y that I probably should address is safety. We spoke about on the last pod, and I specifically I didn't call Gilman out. Someone gave Gilman a lot of praise, and I, at the time, rightfully mentioned that he's been an absolutely fantastic addition to the team, but as an individual player, he's missed a lot of tackles. He hasn't been great. Now, he's proven me wrong. He's obviously another listener to the pod. Todd Monken had a word with him and said, "Hey, look, this great podcast. Have a listen, mate." He's done it. He's turned around. He's thought, you know what? Yeah, DT, you're right. I'm going to react to that. I'm going to turn around and I'm going to make a statement here. And he did. And not just in that touchdown. I mean, that touchdown, just he happened to be the Forrest Gump that was there ready to run it home. Like, absolutely fantastic run back, put his legs on. But actually, more impressive the rest of the game. All game, he was committed in his tackles. I don't think he had anyone slip a tackle in that game, which is not something we've seen all season. He was aggressive. He was dominant. He was just there like an absolute hound ready to attack and destroy those cats.
It was good on the run as well. He kept coming up in the box from safety and stopping anything going through to second level.
He played well. So I'll say sorry, Gilman. My apologies. You are the absolute G of that game. So
you have to say, don't you? We spoke about our Darius Washington is now healthy and back on the 53, and that's pressure on Gilman. I think you were right to say last week, DT, that Gilman's job isn't 100% secure from Washington coming back. He really had to step up, didn't he? Because he is playing for his roster spot in a way now every single week. If he doesn't, if they feel that Washington's a better player, Washington would be on that field. But I did watch that, and it was absolutely glorious given the slander that you gave him last week on the pod.
But I mean that play, like you say, he was more aggressive on the run game, Dan. Like you say, that in itself, maybe that's another little place for him to be. You know, he's not having. He could be freed up now by someone else coming in. There's now opportunities to play him in different roles, which is again a great way of Zach or potentially looking at different strengths we've got across the whole team and thinking, okay, these are all individual great players. They've got great talents. Now let's focus on where they can really make damage.
I think Draymond Jones said that he could sense that after first play that Bengals were up for it, and it seemed like the Ravens defense smelt blood, and they just didn't give him an inch.
Marlo said it's the best week they've had in practice all season. So it's the most physical week they've had. I think he said he was still sore after the Friday walkthrough, which said he's never been in his whole career. Just said they've upped the intensity in defense. Ed Reed was there all week.
That's what I was just about to say. Just about to say, do you think that's got something to do with the Hall of Famer Ed Reed being there all week?
Well, I mean, talking about the intensity, like you mentioned it on the last banner on there in terms of the stats. Someone that we've not necessarily been the biggest fan of or not think he's done what he can do is Roquan Smith. I thought Roquan Smith had an absolute game. He looked aggressive, he looked angry, and he was making some huge tackles to really make a statement in the game yesterday. Like, I love seeing some of those really big hits he was making. That's what we want to see, him swinging players down into the ground, not just like letting them go. Like that's the playing like a Raven that we've not seen.
There were a lovely bit of niggle in that game, especially at first half. You could see that they were just going to outwill everybody.
But this is the thing, and so that's what I said about the Steelers game. You look at that Steelers game, and when I said about TJ Watt, how on the first 4, 5, 6 plays has he just got a free run at the QB? I don't know, it's a different side of the ball. It was the O-line, but there was none of that intensity there, none of that needle there. And I'm not saying it should have been there more in that game than it was this one, but at the time, when you're playing the Steelers, that was for the divisional lead, and there was just none of that there. Do you know what I mean? But they brought that into this game. Look, we mentioned earlier on in a few episodes back now about the defense, and had they turned a corner, and we were, we thought they had, and obviously the last couple of weeks it hasn't been great. Well, they were coming off back to back, kind of confidence sapping defeats to divisional opponents. And look, during them games, they did make some decent plays, but it was time and time again they gave up too many plays in the biggest moments of the game. And it was kind of like in this game, the Ravens defense. I mean, the Ravens as a whole, but the defense mainly in this game were like, this isn't fucking happening again. Like, we're all out here. Every single one of them was busting the nuts there. Not in that way. Fuck's sake, that's a clip. But you know what I mean. They were absolutely busting the bollocks off to just perform. Second year defensive coordinator Zach Orr, his defensive unit answered that call. It was the most dominant, clutch, impressive performance of probably not at this season, but I'd say probably since the beginning of his tenure as a play caller.
Yeah, I wonder if there was a sense of blood in the water, this week. Joe Burrow obviously came out and did his interview, and there was a lot of vulnerability, wasn't there? Talking about does he love the game? How long does he? It's not fun for him anymore. Does he want to carry on? That's not confidence boosting, is it? If you're a Cincinnati Bengal, how are you up for that game when your star quarterback is basically slagging everything off and I suppose in these games, elite sport where little 1% can make a difference. Just wonder if the Ravens thought, if we get into him early, like that could be him gone. And it seemed a bit like that, didn't it, on the pick six where, yeah, you know what, he had a rusher in his face. He was going to take a hit. He basically sacked himself, and as he was falling backwards, just tossed it up into the air to anybody. I don't know. Just just seemed to me that we saw a very different version of Joe Burrow, didn't we? Like a scared rabbit in the headlights version of Joe Burrow this week.
I can guarantee, Rich, that Roquan Smith would have mentioned that retirement in his pre-game hype speech. Let's retire that fucker today, and this is the best bet.
Hearing your franchise quarterback come out and be like that during the week straight away. If you're in that locker room, especially on the offensive side of the ball, you're thinking, why am I putting myself on the line week in, week out when he's here now? It doesn't sound like he wants to be here. Doesn't sound like he wants to be part of the game. The impressive thing for me about that defensive performance is if you look at towards the end of the game, the absolutely. I mean, if that was a boxing bout or a UFC bout, the fight gets stopped. It took the Bengals over 5.5 minutes to advance the ball down to down to the 30-yard line, and then they got stuffed again on 4th and 1. Ravens got the ball back with a minute left on the clock, and then the Cincinnati head coach Zach Taylor, he didn't even want to. He started 3 timeouts. He didn't even want to use the timeouts. He didn't, to stop the clock, and it was kind of like the whole team, the whole organizer just went, "That's it. We've wrapped our tits in. Let's go home now." They made them tap out, and it was just kind of like they just bullied them, submitted them. It was like Zach Orr had Zach Taylor in a rear naked choke, and he was waiting for Big John to come in and stop the fight. So, it was atrocious.
There's a scenario where AFC North next year looks very different, because you could see, depending on how everybody's season finishes, that there could be 4 new head coaches in charge. Stefanski has got to be hanging on by a thread.
Zach Taylor should be gone. He's an abysmal head coach.
Mike Tomlin.
Bengals. Can I say, I've got no sympathy for Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow last off season went to bat for T. Higgins to get a contract extension when most people think, oh, you should be fine with just having Jamar Chase as your number 1 and a couple of other guys. They just gave T. Higgins 4 years, 115 mil, first 2 years fully guaranteed. The rest of it's pretty much there as well. And then he won, and he has the nerve to go out and complain that they can't afford a defense to play around him. Yeah, you've got like 120 mil of your cap this year, wound up in 3 players, one of whom barely makes it onto the field. It's like, at some point, Joe Burrow needs to I know the Cincinnati head office is a bit of a joke and they don't do things very well, but that was Joe Burrow's decision to bat for T. Higgins. If they've not got the money to build a competitive squad around him, it's because he's making weird choices like that. You've got Jamar Chase. You're supposed to be a generational quarterback. Make it work without a star 1B next to your star 1A.
Exactly this.
Valid point.
Last week, that's exactly the problem. They've built the core. We aren't thinking about anything else. I think you wonder why you can't stay upright.
On the whole Joe Burrow leadership thing as well, I think if you look towards the end of it's the end of 3rd quarter, start of 4th quarter, his body language was just all over the shop. He styles himself as being like Mr. Joe Cool, even though that's not him, that's the other Joe. He looked like Mr. Joe freezing cold out there today. He was passing the ball and he could not put his hands back in his hand warmer and step back away from the running play quick enough towards the end. And I think if you see that, you just think, why am I bothering? And again, on the Zach Taylor front, he was running the clock down in the end of the 3rd quarter, start of the 4th. Like, fans watching that, and I'm sure, I think if you saw the pictures on Sky or on the Zone, they had that one camera angle of the stadium in between plays where it showed the fan sat, and it was just dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. And I've seen today they're going to get fined by the NFL for not clearing the snow off the seats for their own fans.
I was just about to say that, Oliver. They got sick of shoveling out seats off. They thought, fuck it, we'll go back to car park for a beer.
Imagine being a fan turning up in that fucking freezing cold temperature, having to clear your own seat, and then having to watch that absolute shit show.
It just shows. I mean, it's helped us because the Bengals should have been a much more difficult opponent for us over the years, given the levels of talent they've had on the field. But they've just been so badly run. They've always managed to find ways to not do as well as they should. I know they've had like one run to the AFC Championship game, but they've had the potential to be so much more.
After the Super Bowl run and all the rookie contracts expired, that were it. Rug just got pulled in it.
Yeah,
It was just an awful front office, isn't it? Look, let's not say anything too more about the Bengals organisation because Dickie's been in the podcast chat here saying that we've all stolen his points. If you look on the right-hand side, guys, there'll be a couple of notifications there off Angry Dick. Look.
Yeah, no one likes Angry Dick.
No. I mentioned them earlier on, you know, Lamar's performance yesterday, it was kind of job done. But we're in the business end of the season now, and year in, year out, week in, week out, especially during weeks 15 to 18, Lamar Jackson just gets it done. With that win yesterday, he is now 16-0 in his NFL career between weeks 15 and 18. You know, the question I'll go to Ollie with this. Just how clutch is Lamar Jackson towards the back end of the season?
Well, I think as well it helps that when we're getting towards the end of the season, normally we are rolling and on a bit of a hype train. I think the past 2 seasons we've been performing really, really well towards the end of the season. He's had all the pieces around him. I would be, interested to see how that transpires this season, but I hope it goes well. I have my concerns about his supporting cast this year, but he's shown himself he is Mr. Clutch when he wants to be.
I mean, you look at this year's schedule, obviously. Just Bengals. You've got the Pats coming up, Green Bay, and then the Steelers. You look at it. I mean, last year, you came off the bye week, the 8th of December. The bye week was the 8th of December. Then the 15th of December at New York Giants, won 35-14. Beat the Steelers at home the week after, 34-17. And then he had that performance at Houston, 31-2. And the only them 2 points were a safety. And then the Cleveland Browns to close off the season. So you look at what obviously the schedule this year, time and time. It's not just a case of, the schedule at the end of the season isn't too great. You go back to 2013, week 15 at Jacksonville, week 16 at Giants, week 17 at Steelers. Yet again, last game of the season, a divisional rival. And he's just going out and winning games again this season. Steelers, last game of the season. Why are we laughing? Dickie.
Ollie just sent me a rude message.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I see.
I've got no doubt that Lamar, who also has got an amazing primetime record, and given that we've been flexed the next 2 weeks, this will put that primetime record up again into focus, that he will keep us in these next 2 games. Now, the defense improved against the Bengals, yes. But the Patriots and Packers have been 2 of the best offenses that have gone under the radar this year. Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, their receiving core is just a bit nuts. They can just throw it to anyone. Anyone that's watching or keeping attention to fantasy saw that Travion Henderson for the Pats was ripping off 50-yarders for fun against the Bills. So I don't worry about whether Lamar can keep up in the next 2 weeks. It's probably going to come down to one play in both of the games. And I think you just need the defense to step up because Lamar's going to keep us in the games the next 2 weeks.
Look, I've just gone back to 2022. Beat the Steelers, beat the Falcons, beat the Steelers. He didn't play in the week 18. Oh no, we did. Lost against the Steelers and the Bengals. He didn't play in them 2 games, did he, in 2022?
Well, this is the thing. I was going to say with this record.
QB sneak game.
Yeah. But Lamar hasn't, obviously in that time frame, since Lamar's been quarterback, there's probably 8 games in that 15 to 18 stretch that he's not actually played. So although obviously 16 I know is great, we have had losses as a team then. Lamar's had injury troubles in that time. He's not had a fit season this season. It'd be interesting to see how he, gets towards the end of the schedule as well. He's quite famous for not necessarily finishing the schedule because of niggling injuries and wanting to kind of save himself for playoffs. We're not going to have a season where he can afford to do that and have a game out this year. So he's going to have to play all until the end. So hopefully he just can power through and it doesn't do too much, bad impact to his niggling injuries.
I will say this is the healthiest he looked in many weeks. He
climbed pocket a few times, didn't he?
Yeah, he managed to break off a few runs. It didn't look like he was as limited as he has the last couple of weeks. So this regimen they've got him on, where he misses 1 day of practice and we all, shit the bed thinking that things are going horribly wrong. Why not? If he needs to keep missing 1 day just to have an extra day healing up, it clearly does seem to be impacting. Not impacting massively connections with the wide receivers.
One good thing one Thursday, hasn't he, over the past 7 weeks or so? And that game we lost. So
one good thing we can celebrate is we don't have to watch Micah Parsons against Daniel Falele. At least we've not got that to come.
I don't know.
But this is the thing with everything with Lamar and stats like this. And there was Bills fan pulling his stats out from yesterday's game to trying to rip into him. But obviously, Micah Parsons being out for that game now at Green Bay. When Lamar Jackson beats the Packers, it's going to be because Micah Parsons wasn't playing. We all know that the headlines are already written by Lamar's haters. If he can if we win out at the end of the season and he plays every single game, what his record's going to be? 19-0 between week 15 and 18. My only concern is time again he does it at the business end of the season. Just. We all know that hurdle. He's won a few of them, but he hasn't won the big one.
Yeah, this is the season to change that, though. It's we said it last episode briefly. If we get to the playoffs, it'd be one where we've got there and we've limped there, which we've not done with Lamar before. When we have been to the playoffs, we've been absolute favourites most of the time. We started the season as favourites for the Super Bowl, ended up obviously absolutely having a shocking season. If we get to the playoffs, it could be a great underdog story, and it could be, and that's a Ravens Super Bowl story. That is, it's what we've done before. So it could be that story, and that's his time to shine.
It's just all about getting hot at the right time, and if we can continue with this from this game onwards, then it don't matter what's gone previously. It's just rolling at the right time.
I've said this before, and no doubt I'll say it again. John Harbaugh is the absolute best coach in the NFL for when you're backed into a corner and you're the underdog. I don't know that he's, we all know he has his problems, but he gets teams that shouldn't win games sometimes to win games.
Yeah, loses games we should win.
Yeah,
and then
we'll just clip that. We'll clip it off where it just says is the best coach in the NFL, and we'll just use that little clip for when things go really wrong.
Yeah, we'll use that as a voice clip. Look, before we get onto Richard's segments, and it was a fan favorite last week according to the comments and some of the messages I got. Our chief of good vibes, Danzai, has got an interest that this is going to be a new feature for Danzai. We're trying to engage his brain a little bit more.
Fire.
Color it.
Danzai is
bear with us.
obviously a couple of, getting to this end of the season now, teams start missing out on playoffs. So Dan, I believe you've got a stat of the week for us.
Yeah, we've Chiefs getting eliminated yesterday. This is the first postseason without either Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, or Kermit the Frog since 1998. But it just so happens that it coincides with Patriots revival again. So, but yeah, the big three aren't in it this year. So let's go.
Well,
Let's do it.
I mean, two of them are definitely not going to be in it, really.
No. Neither were Patrick Mahomes. He can't even walk a minute.
Yeah, no. He's done his ACL on Patrick Mahomes. Who
season?
Yeah. Who's going to be starting? Who's going to be starting QB for the next year? Because I mean, he's young enough to get back quick, but the way Patrick Mahomes plays American football, you know, what do we think? Are we going to see him back for the start of the season, or are we thinking it's going to be
Gardner Minshew?
Yeah.
I think they've got a big rebuild on the with Chiefs. I think Kelsey's going to retire. I think they've got a lot of stuff to sort. I can see him not being as good for a bit, me. Which is
the thing about the Chiefs, they've got so much flexibility with his contract that they can do such cap magic. There are people that can easily fill in. I mean, God, you think you've seen enough weird stuff with Joe Flacco this year? Imagine seeing him in the Kansas City Chiefs colours. That wouldn't surprise me for the first 3 or 4 games. If they think he's going to miss 4 or 5, just let him sling it around for a bit. I mean, you don't know, do you? All these
Rivers
guys
might be there.
Phil Rivers. He didn't look terrible, Phil Rivers. So.
It looked terrible.
It just looks like he's throwing a Frey Bentos pie when he throws balls.
Yeah, it looked like that uniform was sprayed on. Did you see that play? Did you see that play where he dropped back and his 48-year-old knees just crumbled? Like, no, you could hear them squealing. Look, it's that time of the week. It's that time of the week. A new feature for the show. We featured it last week. And there is a jingle to this. It is time for where is it? It is time for Dickie's Dick of the Day.
Yes. So first candidate, Joe Burrow, for all of the reasons that Nathan so eloquently explained to the listeners and the viewers.
You're welcome.
You cannot.
Rich has added Nathan to his Dick of the Day advert.
Yeah, well, for the window lickers at the back who didn't listen the first time,
Jesus fucking Christ.
Just say Danzo's name next time.
I was just about to say, is there anybody else that feels like that were a bit of a dig?
You cannot bitch about the state of your protection and your defense not making any plays when you're making crazy cap decisions. You also can't effectively come onto the field as a franchise NFL quarterback and surrender so abysmally. And I just think Joe Burrow strikes me as somebody that's a bit more focused on his weekly fashion choices than he is about winning football games. I watched the documentary Quarterback on Netflix. I mean, maybe he does, but
other services are available. Drop me a DM.
Maybe he does because Lamar Jackson is a very private individual, but it would horrify me if my franchise quarterback had his own personal stylist. I don't care what you're wearing as long as you produce the goods on the field. So, Joe Burrow gets an honourable mention in Dickie's Dick of the Day. We then move on to the Bengals organization. So eloquently explained by my second favourite Bristolian, Ollie.
Ollie
decided
just come added to Richard's stick of the week as well.
in sub-zero temperatures to not bother to clean the snow off the seats. That shows how little that they care about their fan base. I don't know why you'd be part of the Bengals fan base, but some people make poor life choices. You know, they don't want to pay. Yeah, they didn't even want to get volunteers in to do it, or pay them $2 an hour or whatever minimum wage is these days in Ohio. They'd rather let their fan base freeze, which I think is a proper dick move. So, honourable mention to them. And really, the dick of the day, if we're being honest, Zay Flowers, because I can forgive him dropping a perfectly thrown ball into the arms of a Cincinnati defender, but I just think being 5'9" and not quite reaching the ball in the end zone is an unforgivable sin. So Zay Flowers is dick of the day because he wasn't born 6'2".
Fucking hell. I mean, I know you mentioned Joe Burrow's fashion statement. Did you not see Lamar walking in his pink Supreme balaclava hoodie?
Yeah, well, I thought that would have been at home on the Milan Fashion Week parade, to be honest. And look, you know what? I don't care what these guys wear. Lamar Jackson generally backs himself up on the field week after week. I thought Joe Burrow was abysmal, so he doesn't get away with some crazy fashion choices.
Right, so there we have it.
Alex Ferguson in Joe Burrow's dressing room. Leave that, get that off, and fuck off out my sight.
Joe Burrow would be out in the second half with the stitches just over his eyebrow.
Shave that Mohican off.
We're all going to have to watch what we wear on the next podcast. King of the Catwalk himself, Richard, has spoken.
Get that dryer on the bleached blonde hair.
I mean, listeners, if you haven't found us on WhatsApp yet, when you do, you will come accustomed to Richard's fashion choices. There was an interesting one of a suit he was wearing the other day. Put it this way, if you were sat opposite him, you would have wanted full body armor on because the button was about to do damage if that went off.
Very unplanned for you to
So, Richard, Zay Flowers, you dick of the day.
Yeah, apologies, Zay, because I don't think he did a lot wrong, but that's just the way it goes sometimes.
I feel like Rich has pivoted, and that probably wasn't his original go-to, but we've ruined the seg for him.
Oh, he was definitely going to go since the Bengals organization.
Rich
yeah,
loves to we've heard it before.
I had to
send us your script in advance, Rich.
Yeah,
I had to adapt on the fly, and when the play breaks down, things start to go wrong.
It went into a 5-minute scramble drill. Zay Flowers
we did.
Yeah. Poor Zay Flowers got a pass basically overthrown to him, and that's why he's dick of the day.
No. Did you not listen? He's dick of the day because he's not 6'2" and could have reached the pass.
Yeah, but Lamar knows he's not 6'2". He should have thrown it properly. Sorry, Lamar. I know you're listening. You did great.
Right.
Thank
you very much, Richard, for another well-informed discussion about your, I was going to say favourite dick of the day. Obviously, you dislike dick of the day. Right. So, this week, we've had a couple of questions sent into the Ravens Across the Pond mailbox Q&A. The listeners have sent them in via video. First up is this one from a well-known guy in our WhatsApp community and in the fantasy football community.
Evening, lads. My question for you is, how would you rate EDC's in-season performance this year? So, was he aggressive enough? Should he have done more on the offensive side? And before you mention it, Tom, not Kevin Ziegler.
Right. Fucko, thank you very much for that one, sending that in. also effectively known that to us as Roller. I feel kind of obliged that I take the lead on this one because it felt a bit personal then at the end. Fucko. So, should Eric Da Costa have done more this season? I'm not going to, obviously, you've already mentioned Zietler. I don't think it just comes down to that. The biggest issue for me is the guard duo of Andrew Voorhees and Daniel Falele is one of the worst in the league. Defensive line, obviously up until recently, I've praised them, but this is obviously you're asking about the season and presuming around about the deadline as well. Defensive line, the group hasn't been able to generate pressure at a consistent rate. I think up to week 10, they only had 12. They had 12 sacks, so they were ranked tied dead last for that. The one for me that absolutely does it is you let Pat McCarty walk, and I know he's having an absolute fucking stinker of a season with the Jaguars. The then only move to address that was bringing back Ben Cleveland, who has been nothing but a depth piece since he's come into the NFL in the last 5 years. And the cherry on top of the fucking cake is we knew the cap space this season was going to be tight. You've already mentioned them, and you've said don't mention it, but we could have brought back Kevin Zietler. He signed a 1-year contract with the Titans for $9 million. Instead, the Ravens shelled out $10 million in guaranteed money between quarterback Cooper Rush, offensive tackle Joe Noteboom, and cornerback Jair Alexander. All three who have been absolute busts. There was too many things that hadn't been addressed, and there was at a point of the season coming to the deadline where things could have been addressed. All right, they moved Jair Alexander. They managed to get something back for him. I think overall it's been disappointing. It's good that you sent this question in because we were due to talk about EDC in the last episode, and we just totally forgot it. We ended up talking about Sharon Moore and shagging everyone and then trying to pull a knife on people. I think he is under immense pressure for the rest of the season and in the off season.
I mean, I think before Richard jumps in there, because he loves to say it every time, Richard's favourite thing when we talk about EDC is, well, we don't know what he tried to do. He might have tried to do things. It is that kind of thing, He may have tried to make some moves that just didn't materialise. It was expensive for us. And I think to give EDC his props, and I think to give the Ravens their props, they don't tend to overspend. They generally will make some moves if they can in a smart way. And I think as much as it would have been great to see a huge legacy, big name brought in that's going to turn it around, if that was going to fuck us up for the future, I don't know if it would be the right move to do. It's not a kind of all or bust kind of team that we support here. They try and move things forward in a strategic way. So yeah, I'd like to see some things, but actually bringing in 3 players for the price of 1, albeit those 3 players are a bust, like you say, still fairly good business. Just didn't work out in this sense.
I think we mentioned it on last pod as well. I think EDC's kind of been caught out a little bit with how well we played offensively last season and how well Derrick Henry and Lamar just dominated, that it kind of hid a lot of the deficiencies that we've got there. And then this season that's come to the fore, and then kind of when you're in season, it's hard then to start filling gaps. You've got injuries happening, you know what I mean? You're trying to plug and play. So I think we're a little bit of regression on players that we've already had there that we thought were going to take the jump. Plus how well we were last season, we kind of found ourselves in a predicament where we've been caught short a little bit, and now we've got 2 of the worst guards in football, full stop.
Yeah, so I think, the question talked about moves in season, and I think obviously the moves we've seen have taken place on defense. It's just really hard, isn't it? We all know we need a better guard. Everyone knows we need a better guard. Guards are just not available in season. Any NFL caliber lineman, teams are going to demand an absolute ransom to move them on. I think there has been talk. We've all seen the talk. Could we have made a monster trade? Micah Parsons was being talked about at one point. Well, we've just seen, and it's not necessarily a hindsight league, and anything could have happened. But the Packers made that move to go all in, and Micah Parsons, who they paid 2 first-round picks for and paid a monster contract, is going to be sidelined for arguably a massive chunk of next season as well. I think EDC's done really, really well. Who are the 2 players that probably received the most praise on the pod tonight? Draymond Jones and Alohi Gilman, both in-season moves on the defense. Trading away our, the guy who we all thought was going to break out and be our best pass rusher, improved the pass rush. I think in a world of kind of limited resources, I think EDC's done a great job to help this team stay competitive with his in-season moves.
Cracking answers, and just want to bookend that with 2 points. One, I knew Richard was going to be the person to clarify the question was going to be about, well, technically it's in-season. And 2,
I'm just giving the people what they want.
And 2, I don't think we actually need Rich anymore because DT's impression of him was chef's kiss, spot on. I mean, we can just snapshot a photo of Rich going forward, and DT can just do 2 voices for the rest of the pod.
It's interesting.
What the people actually want going forward is shorter answers. So, in short, I would say in-season activity, great. Inactivity, bad. Because there's no, for me, I think we have to get O-line help. That's hamstrung us. Don't care what you say, Richard. It's bad.
Right, I've got to nip this in the bud now. Foco, thank you very much for your question. I hope you've got some kind of answers. This next question is from Ben Rochford. It's come in via the WhatsApp community.
Hey guys, really enjoying the podcast. Keep up the good work. Question for you. On last night's performance against the Bengals, what do you think it proved most about the current Ravens team? That the offense is finally clicking, or that the defense still has the ability to shut out a divisional rival? What do we think it proved most?
Right, because I'm conscious of time. Oliver and then Nathan can answer this one. DT, I'll save the last one for you.
For me, I think unfortunately it proves neither of those things. For me, it just shows that we beat a really, really bad team. On to Nathan.
I was actually really impressed with what the run blocking looks like a bit more this week. So that impressed me, and I think that shows that the offense might be doing a little bit better on that side of the ball. But I think probably I'd take option 2 in this scenario. With everyone getting back on the field, yeah, we might have lost Teddy, but we're getting more people coming in than coming out. I think the signs are looking positive for the defense, and it's something that I think we could expect to keep going over the next couple of weeks.
Defense wins championships.
Excellent. This last one is being sent in by a good friend of Richard's, Josh. He's a Newcastle fan. Now, when he sent this question, I said, look, if you said what in for us, Josh, I won't mention the result of the time we had Derby. Josh, I was lying to you. Thank you very much for your video. Up the fucking Mackhams. DT, this one is for you, mate.
Hi guys, it's Josh. My question is, how do you feel about the decline of the AFC North and going from probably 2 to 3 teams pushing for playoffs? And I think a couple of years ago we had 4 teams pushing for the playoffs, and now we're looking at maybe 1 getting through, and hopefully 2 if the Ravens can pick up their act and keep that run going. And just a quick push on how we see the same teams really again at the top of the draft. I I think I looked the other day and it's Titans, Jets, Bengals, Browns, Cardinals. They all seem to be getting high picks and doing nothing with it, which is just bad little run organised teams. But obviously, hopefully we make a playoffs and don't have to have such a high pick. Sorry.
That is an actual person. That isn't a puppet from the film Team America World Police. Josh, my answer to your question is DT, go ahead.
Thank you, Josh, for the question. Appreciate you taking the time in between being so busy with your yellow room. I'll be honest, it's a real shame. It is a real shame that the North is in a decline. You know, I used to love us winning the division in a really, really tough division. It was a kind of point of pride to say that we managed to beat out fucking great teams and get to the playoffs despite not having an easy run. And yeah, at times I'd kind of say, oh, well, it's all right for some other teams where you've got an absolute shite division where, you know, back when the Lions were shit and it was the Vikings were dominant, you know, whatever. Like there were divisions where, and there still are, one team will dominate and it's kind of a dead set from the start. But actually, I never wanted to be that division. I liked it when we were an absolute powerhouse of a division and it was some tough games. It makes for interesting football and it makes for a much more proud starts at the end of the season. So, yeah, as much as it would have been nice to be able to have a nice, easy run to the playoffs every year if this carries on and we improve next year, it doesn't feel good to be a team of a division of 4 shit teams. I'd rather us be 4 good teams. Well, 3 good teams in the round.
Yeah.
Anyone want to answer this last question about draft picks and organisations?
I'll do the current top 5 of the draft order. So I won't spend too much time talking about Cleveland and the Jets because I feel like we've abused them both enough this year already. But the top 3 currently consists of the Giants, the Raiders, and Tennessee. Now, the Giants and Tennessee, I think, have got my sympathies this year and I'm going to give them a pass. They're both playing with rookie quarterbacks with not a lot around them. And there is a great chance for them this year to either sell those picks or get some really good premium players to go alongside the ball because there will be quarterback needy teams. My biggest worry would probably be what the Raiders are going to do. The Geno Smith experiment has failed spectacularly. And they might be one of the team that goes for one of these quarterbacks that before the season started, there wasn't a massive amount of hype around them and they're all kind of seemingly coming through quite late in the process. And it just feels like a very Raiders thing to do to burn a peck on a quarterback that's going to end up flaming out and they could end up in purgatory for a while. But I think Giants, who currently have the number 1 pick, they would be my kind of like dark horse team to rebound really well next season. I love what Jackson Dart does. Obviously, Neighbours has been out injured. I like Wandale Robinson. They've had injuries at running back as well. Scatterboo's really fun to watch. If they could sort the defense out, they've got all the pieces in place on offense. So, yeah, I get what he means. So there are some teams that are always there. Badly run organizations are going to be badly run. But if you look at the top 3 at the moment, it's probably only the Raiders that concern me about kind of setting themselves into like a long trap.
And the Giants and the Raiders play each other in week 17, so that might be
Tank off
to see how little
Richard got that excited then.
Tank off, Richard. Don't worry.
He loves tanks as well.
Oh, Richard, come on.
I was just, I'm taken aback by that unnecessary violence, and I guess flagged to the podcast. No, I mean, I think what I'd say, AFC North has really underperformed, hasn't it, compared to preseason expectations. I don't actually think that the Steelers, the Bengals, and us are necessarily that far away. I don't think those teams are on the terminal decline. I think if the Bengals can sort of get a couple of offensive linemen, I think if we can get a couple of guards as well, you know, I just it's not like we suddenly the worst teams in the NFL. We're just missing 1 or 2 crucial pieces, and you know, I think would probably back the AFC North to be one of the stronger divisions again next year.
I'm all for Steelers keeping the picks high and just stay away from the quarterback market. I just love them to keep wheeling out veterans that's going to kill the season.
Just one last thing on the AFC North. I don't know whether anybody else seen it. I did mention it the other day in the WhatsApp group. The situation at Cleveland Browns regarding one of the quarterbacks, Dylan Gabriel. Someone online has done a little bit of digging into Dylan Gabriel and head coaches he has played for. So to start off with, Dylan Gabriel's agent is the same agent as Stefanski. And every single college team that Dylan Gabriel played for, the head coach had the same agent.
I mean,
That's
a conspiracy theory up there with the Titanic was secretly swapped with its sister.
The Lusitania.
Do you think that's why Stefanski started giving Sanders the wrong wristband?
Not the Lusitania, Tom. Different companies.
Yeah, Tom.
Not the White Star Line, Tom. Come on.
The Olympic, Tom. You need to
That's
do
it,
some
the
film.
Olympic.
You need to do some film study on conspiracy theories.
I don't believe it, mate. I don't go leave the house with tinfoil on my head, mate. I'm not arsed.
They call him Tom Aaron Rodgers Wilkinson for nothing.
Fuck off. Look, guys, been a great show. I've enjoyed it. The new studio has been the dog's danglies. To the community, thank you very much for following, listening, watching along. We had a couple of new members join us over the weekend. We are continuing to grow. Our socials, you'll notice, have been flicking along the bottom. All podcast. On X, it's Ravens ATP. On Instagram, it's Ravens Across the Pond. TikTok, Ravens Across the Pond. YouTube, it is the same handle, Ravens Across the Pond. Make sure you drop us a like and just click that subscribe button. Click that bell so you'll get a notification every time that we go live, which will be coming soon. Every time we post and upload, gives us some support, gives the lad support. This podcast was brought to you by the Across the Pond Sports Network in conjunction with our sponsors, Stacked Gaming, your new home for NFL bet tracking in the UK and further afield. So thank you to our sponsors, Stacked. I've been Thomas. They've been Danzai, Oliver, Richard, DT, and Nathan. We'll catch you on the next one. See you later, guys.
See ya.
Till next time.
Thanks for listening to Ravens Across the Pond. We'll see you next time.